Hey, good afternoon. It is the Sunday show on this, the 14th of September, 2025. Seth Andrews with Matt Dillahunty, who is not 100% today. And so I'm a little concerned about you. Doing okay? You're going to hang? You know, do you
I
need...
am. I'm alive and kicking, and so yeah, it's no big
Oh,
deal.
all right.
If I gotta go, I gotta go.
All right.
But
Well, we'll just be watching you closely. Arden, if he starts to do any of this or he glazes
yeah,
over, begins to speak like Kent Hovind, we will assume there's been a mild stroke or God has struck him on the heavens.
maybe I'm AI. That's your job today, is to figure out whether or not I'm AI.
Dude, I have narrated 14 audiobooks. I got a message from Audible, and it asked me if I would like to submit a sample of my voice so that AI could narrate all of my future audiobooks. And I was almost offended by it. And the reason is this, and I'm not trying to be a Luddite about AI, but I always thought that the purpose of technology, or the best purposes of technology, was to help us eliminate some of the more menial things that distract us from the best of human existence, specifically creation, building. You know, whether it's storytelling and painting, whether it's innovating, whether it's doing something where we make the world a better place. This is what humanity should be focused on. And all the detritus and all the other stuff, then, you know, we can let the machines handle all that stuff. And instead, what's happened is AI is starting to do the creating, and we can get into that. I know how I want it said. I know how I want it read. I know the pacing. I know the tempo. I know the humanity. Why would I replace myself with a machine? I've been thinking about it all day. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. But I'm
Yep.
offended.
It would have been nice just to have mow the lawn. Do something. I don't. It's not a big deal. You don't have to come in here and come up with a moral framework and explain to me why whoever programmed you decided that this group is always bad. Wait, did I say that?
Have you seen those remote robotic mowers? You just drive by and they're out in somebody's lawn. They just totally, it's like the movie. Do you remember the Tom Selleck film Runaway from the it was like 80s or 90s? All these boxy robots are doing this kind of thing. And so I'm
I
driving
don't
by.
recall that.
No, it's a dealership. It's like it's a car dealership, I think, on Aspen. And they had this mower, and it was just like a robotic box. And it was just, and it was doing a grid all the way around the curb and everything. And it was mowing by itself. And part of me, I had two moments. I thought, wow, that's neat, you know? And then the other part of me thought, first of all, I've seen the Runaway Machines movies, and it has a swirling blade. And two, there is no replacement for the satisfaction of a well-mowed lawn, right? To see that perfect edging. Oh, to
Yes.
see the, oh yeah. Yeah, there's no substitute for that.
I don't
I will
have any
take
grass left, but yeah.
I will take your silence as a tacit agreement as you are recovering from whatever sickness that you've got. So I don't know when to throw it to you, Matt. I don't know when, you've got the energy to be able to participate.
There's not much to throw. It's been a rough week, and even though, yes, I'm miserable and unable to focus, hey, that would be a great thing. All of the apologists who normally don't feel like calling in because I'm, I don't know, extra pedantic or super argument bouncer offer, whatever it is. Clearly, I am not myself today, and this would be a great day for you to call in and defend it, because I probably won't talk as much or make as much sense. Did any of that make sense to anybody?
We will take theist callers and give them priority. If you want to talk about God, higher power, a cosmic other, a father figure, a first cause, spirits, ghosts, or whatever, you have your people, cool, our people, the phone number and the web link in the description box. Speaking of ghosts, I've been working on my Halloween display while we're waiting on the switchboard to populate.
Legendary Halloween display.
Legendary. So anyway, let me show you a work in progress. Hang on. Actually, I just finished this. Oh, this is made of wood. I'm doing a skeleton rock band on the lawn. And I got this cheap ass old kid's drum set, but it's an actual drum set. I'm going to leave it out in the weather, so don't. But this is made of wood, and I painted it with glitter paint. And then the musical strings are just like regular strings, and this will be propped up in front of a skeleton hand as it actually strums the guitar. And huge thanks out to Jason Stubbs, who is an engineer who helped me. He's the one who's rigging it to play. And then I got my lead vocalist here. I figure I'm going 80s. Oh, can you see him?
Nice.
So, and then maybe some 80s hair. I haven't decided. And he needs a name. So anyway, I have been distracting myself.
I think you should name him Axel Taker. Because he looks like what would happen if Axl Rose and The Undertaker had a kid.
Like somebody
And
said,
I'm talking biker
Dead
takers.
Leopard would be a good one. I don't know if anybody's got some good vocalist or band names. I would welcome that. Were you forbidden to do the Halloween holiday? When you were growing up, was it always the Devil's Day?
No, and I think I was a vampire like 5 years in a row or something. It was weird because I never really understood it. It was, oh, we're going to dress up and we're going to go out and get candy, but I wasn't told a lot about what the holiday meant from any perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, dress up, get candy, dress up, get candy. So it was not a huge deal for me.
When I was in Christian school, we had a Christian comedian named Mike Warnke, who, by the way, was exposed. Yeah. He was exposed actually from within Christian circles. His shtick is that he used to be a Satanist high priest, and they drank blood and chopped people's fingers off and had sacrifices, and he, all of this stuff. He wrote a book called The Satan Seller, and it sold millions, and he toured, and he was genuinely a talented comedian. But the problem is somebody finally decided they were going to check all of these Satanist claims that he was making about his past. And it turns out that none of it was true. And his ministry just imploded. It totally fell apart.
Yeah, I remember.
That was part of my upbringing. They're putting candy, razor blades in the candy, and they're kidnapping black cats and virgins and, children and all that kind of thing. And I wonder if maybe some of that explains that repression and fear explains my fascination with the holiday even. Today, people like to see evil under every rock. The evil I saw, and I have to make this segue before we do go to the phones. And again, the numbers are on the screen. In the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, and we have to mention, this is an atrocity that we oppose. Political violence is not the answer. And whoever is responsible must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I've been saying this and leading with it, but at the same time, that fact doesn't make Charlie Kirk a good person. He has an extremely problematic past. I've been writing and speaking about that. But in the wake of this, before a suspect was arrested, the narrative was that those the demonic lefties, I think it was Matt Walsh, who had said that we were demons. So everywhere we look, we realize the satanic panic is not over, right? The 80s and 90s may have ended, and that incarnation of the satanic panic is not over, but we are seeing a continuation of the satanic panic even now. It's not just that we disagree or that we think you're wrong or even destructive. You are an agent of the Dark Lord, Matt. I'm sure you've seen some of that out there.
Yeah, and the satanic panic stuff, it wasn't a problem to potentially even invent something. I'm not going to kind of do the false flag thing, but the whole thing was spun up to the point where even as someone who was like saved and washed in the blood, the very notion that the Satanists were coming for us, even when you felt somehow, oh, I've got, all I need to do is mention Jesus' name. My mom would tell me that. My mom would sit me down and, if I was ever scared or anything like that, she's like, they would have to depart in Jesus' name. So she would teach me that. And then it was a confusing situation. I was talking to somebody just the other day about when Sam Harris and I were doing events together, and he had security and I didn't. And I always wondered if I was more safe when I was around him because there was security, or less safe because he needed it. It was that same sort of thing. When it came to the satanic panic, it was, oh, am I now more of a target because I'm washed in the blood, or, the counter to that? And it's
Well,
looking back on it, it's very difficult to find. So many people try to make sense of it in different ways. I had my way. I don't know what anybody else's way was.
I think the narrative was if you aren't being persecuted, that means the devil doesn't care, which means you're not a good soldier. If you're not being bothered with by the devil, he must find you inconsequential as a believer. And so the idea is, and we've seen this in the United States, certainly, if you are part of the most privileged class, let's call it white, hetero, evangelical, male, let's throw male in there as well. Um, and you're being coddled by the culture and have been on the order of centuries. How are you then a good Christian if you are not persecuted? And of course the answer is you manufacture the
Yeah.
persecution. You are now concocting the villains, sort of carving them into whatever image that you wish, and against them you play hero. And I think this has been the calling card for satanic panics throughout history. But it has been an interesting thing to watch the culture. Anything else before I move to Megan, our first call on the switchboard? Matt, anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. Let's have a
Let's take a look. I
discussion with
want to
Megan.
say this is out of Washington. Megan at 843. Welcome. You're on with Seth and Matt's on the Sunday show. Are you there?
Oop, my
Megan?
bad. The line was muted. Let's try that again.
Are we going to try Megan? Are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you now. You are global. You are on the air with Matt and Seth. What's on your mind today?
I recently picked up your book, Deconverted, and like it really touches on things that I've been going through because I was more or less raised Christian and just trying to finalize, I guess, moving from religion to reason. Because I noticed in your book, around the time of September 11th, your thoughts were, why didn't God step in, things like that. That's sort of one of my biggest hangups. And I just wondered if you guys had any advice on just what did you go through when you finally stepped away from religion and you're like, okay, I'm officially an atheist.
Well, if I may, before I actually defer to Matt to begin, in the book, I also said that I realized what you're speaking about is known as the problem of evil or the problem of needless suffering. But also,
Hmm.
one of my challenges was I noticed that everybody around 9/11 was invoking God, and they were all conflicting.
Yeah.
Jerry Falwell, Pat
Okay.
Robertson were invoking God. God is judging us because we allowed gay people to be here. And then it was the Islamist terrorists who were invoking God as they smashed their planes into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. And people were calling out to God for, I don't know, protection and healing. And yet all I saw was action reaction. And that was a messy
Hmm.
time for me. But I do appreciate you reading the story. Matt, did you want to talk about your journey in that context?
Well, the question about kind of how it felt in that deconverting process, for mine, it was gradual over a period of time, and there wasn't an aha moment of
Hmm.
recognition, but it was liberating for me pretty much across the board. And once I got comfortable with the concept, one day it was just, yeah, I'm an atheist. And
Hmm.
so my deconversion story or is, I don't know how typical mine is. Of course, I'm weird on a number of things, so maybe nothing about Nothing about me is just an example for anything. But it was, yeah, it was for me. It was very liberating, and it's kind of hard to describe because if you don't feel like oppressed and you get liberated from that oppression that you weren't recognizing. It's not really a
Mm,
word for that. I thought everything was
yeah.
great, and then I entertained the notion that it might not be, and then I realized how bad some things were, which made me happy that I was no longer in that position, and so everything was just better. But I don't
Mhm.
think my take on it's remotely typical.
Megan, what's your background, if I may ask? Christianity and what kind?
Christianity, and it was mainly Protestant. I mean, we didn't really go to church, I remember, until I was already about 12 years old. And then we were in church for a few years, like Baptist, like down south. And then we just sort of stopped going around the time that I was 19 or 20. And then I tried to hold on to the faith. I was in a Christian college, graduated from there. And then after I left and, essentially got into the real world, I started questioning a lot of things. And, I felt in a way like an existential crisis almost. Like I was so just constantly nervous and fearful of God. But then when I started reading your book and I started thinking in a more scientific manner, that's when I finally started to calm down and really be comfortable in life. And
Where are
it's
you
just been
now? I'm not asking
just
you
so
to like
refreshing.
put yourself in a box, but you're still on the
hmm
journey. Are you spiritual? Are you a progressive Christian? Are you not sure? I don't know. Or if you had to try to put
Yeah,
it into words.
I suppose at this point, agnostic, I guess, would be the most appropriate term. But I'm still on the journey. Like I would, because I'm very much trying to lean more towards science. So I suppose like it would either be agnostic or atheist. But I just don't know how to label myself at this point. It's
Hey,
just an in
Megan, and
progress. Yeah.
this is where I'm going. Don't
hmm
sweat the labels. I don't care what you call it. I don't. And there will be some people who are like, well, are you an agnostic or are you an agnostic? Are you a Gnostic atheist? Or are you, I mean, they have all these combinations, they play little word games as if you and your complex journey can always fit onto a byline. And I think the
hmm
most important thing is that you are already in the place where you are taking a journey authentically and you're asking questions, not, not not allowing somebody else to keep you from asking those questions. And wherever you end up, I think the fact that you are on the path on your own, don't feel like you have to force yourself. Well, how do I get myself to atheism? Or how do I get myself to the point where I'm an anti-theist or when I'm doing this? I think let's get excited about living in the real world and the tools of science to better understand that world. Let's better understand superstitions. All the world's religions are the major ones, where they came from, how they're used, how they're similar, how they're different, how they're used for control. How did that impact me in my own life, for better and for worse? And what do I want out of life? All of these questions, they don't fit into I'm an agnostic, atheist, Gnostic, spiritual seeker, humanist. They just don't. And so give yourself a little grace on that and continue to pursue your own journey on your own terms. Keep asking questions, make every day a discovery. I'm excited about where you are, Megan. I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so helpful to hear. And I suppose I'll use that as like my own filter, like in regards to people, like if they are willing to listen to my questions and genuinely answer, then they're my kind of person. If not, then that might not be my kind of person to talk to.
Unless the answer is you're broken and you're going to hell and I'll pray for you, then you may not be able to have that kumbaya moment that you are so seeking, Megan. But I think journeys like these are also helpful in helping us to find out who our people are. Love
hmm
bombing, love language is often weaponized in high control cultures. I love you so much, love you in the love of the Lord. I'm praying for you because I love you, blah, blah, blah. I love you unconditionally. And then you show up at Thanksgiving and you say something, you decide to say, well, I have some doubts and I'm not sure this works for me. So I am no
hmm
longer this. Then you find out who truly loves you unconditionally, who respects your boundaries unconditionally, who is, who's going to, I don't know, who's not going to be inappropriate with you, no matter where they fall on the
Mhm.
family tree. It's kind of a black light at the scene, and you can find out what works and what doesn't. I don't know. I'm just babbling, Megan. Having been
No, it's
down
just
some of the roads you've been, I'm babbling. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I was just going to say quickly, because I know there's some other callers.
You're good.
I found it refreshing in your book. You mentioned that even with like your family and friends in your circle, people who have very much different views than you, you're still very cordial with them. It's a mutual understanding. Everyone's civil, and I think
Hey,
that's just
Megan.
so important. Hmm.
Hey, Megan.
Yes,
Can I make a confession?
yes.
After the last 10 years, I'm having a harder time doing that. And in some cases, I have closed the channels of communication because if
Hmm.
there is someone who can convince, and there may be somebody who can convince the agents of cruelty, even if they don't think they're agents of cruelty, but, with Trump cult and the calls for civil war and the dehumanization of our fellow human beings and the
Hmm.
fascist or attempted fascist takeover of the country. I have I have a lot of scar tissue there. So I
Hmm.
wrote that at a time when things were a little less intense and critical, and there have been some relationships that I have simply severed. I just can't do it. And I don't know if that's the right answer, but I have to be candid and say a lot of people that I disagree with, we spend time and hang out and play tennis and do all those things. And the people I think who have crossed a specific line into harming the people and causes I care about, I have not been able
Hmm.
to do that. And I've drawn a pretty hard line. I don't know. Does that sound like a shitty thing to do, Megan?
That does not sound shitty to me
Okay.
at all. That sounds honest. And if you decide that's what's the best situation for you, and to keep yourself healthy and mentally grounded, then by all means protect yourself and protect your boundaries. I mean, that doesn't sound shitty to me at all.
See, you called in to encourage
Hmm.
us, right? I mean, to get encouragement from, I don't know. All I know is you're encouraging me. And so what,
Oh.
you dialing in, you're like my Tony Robbins today. You got me in a good headspace. Matt, was there anything you
Well,
wanted
I'm
to
glad.
toss in?
No, when somebody seems pleased about the prospect of a transition described as from religion to reason, um, okay, I'm thrilled. I'm not going to say anything to potentially jeopardize that or find some point of disagreement. Yes, keep going and asking questions.
Dial in sometime
Thank-
if you make some discoveries that you find compelling enough to share here. I think a lot of people would be curious about the journey you're on. And I know it sounds like a Lifetime movie, but it really is a journey and not a destination. Every day we wake up and we freshly assess the world. I think that's what we have to do if we're going to live honest and authentic lives. Okay.
I agree. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor to speak to you, Megan. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
I am amazed at the stuff I didn't feel like I had the permission to ask when there were so many things that were sacred. I mean, blasphemy is a great example, right? God will forgive Jeffrey Dahmer. He will forgive a child rapist. He will forgive Adolf Hitler. But if you blaspheme the Holy Spirit, he will not forgive that. This was at least the vibe of what was taught to us. For some reason, if you offend the Spirit, you have now crossed this line. And we were raised to fear hell, to fear demons, to fear all these things. And that it has great utility because it keeps us from kicking the tires and tapping on the glass and asking inconvenient questions. And I think once you get over that, you realize there are no sacred cows. The more somebody says, you're not allowed to ask that question, who do you think you are? The more I say, congratulations, you have now prompted me to put that at the top of my question list, right? It was down here, but now that you've told me it's sacred, now it is number one. And that's liberating because then you can assess things with a sense of authenticity and courage. So, Megan's obviously, she's pretty brave, I think, to be able to take the journey that she's taken, Matt. So
I concur. You talked about the apostasy, the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. I recall not having a clue about what that even really meant. And every time I'd go seek out another apologist, because if I'm going to commit some sin, let's make sure I at least don't commit that one.
yeah.
And so what does it mean? And the closest anyone got to saying with any confidence of what their perspective on it was that made sense to me was that it was blasphemy of the Holy Spirit would be to credit the profane for the sacred. So to say something that God did, you're going to say Satan actually did it, sort of thing, that kind of extreme. And I was like, well, if I don't believe in either of them, how could I ever do that? I'm free. I couldn't possibly commit apostasy. And then, of course, okay, but what if your definition's wrong? What if what somebody meant was different?
If I did believe in God, I'd be calling down healing prayers for you right now and say, oh, Lord, we ask you. My favorite part about being in the faith, and we've talked about this a lot, I will get to you, Josh, on the switchboard, and there's room for others if you would like to dial in, especially theists who want to talk about God. I remember we used to say things that made no sense, like, "Dear Lord, please guide the hands of the surgeon." It's one of those things that felt good when we said it, and we didn't stop to think, this makes no sense. And then on the other side, I'm like, well, okay, let's put this scenario together. If, let's say, somebody has cancer and they're going in and they need surgery to remove a tumor or something, I would like to ask a believer who is going in, I say, all right, you have two choices. You have a Christian doctor who totally names it and claims it and believes the same Bible you do and is a faithful, faithful believer, but is not the best in their field. And over here is an atheist who has 30 years of experience and is at the top of their field, who is renowned globally for being one of the greatest oncologists and surgical surgeons on the planet, but is an atheist. Which physician would you choose for your care or the care of someone you love? And people, I've asked this a few times, and people tilt. Just they don't. I think they usually default to something like, "Well, the Lord can use the abilities of the faithless for His ends." There's always a way out. But I find that an interesting social experiment. So let's talk to. Oh, forgive me, John. Matt, go ahead.
I was just going to say that there's a continuation of that idea, which is to figure out, okay, where then do we draw the line? If you have the godless heathen who is the absolute best surgeon in every other facet, or the janitor who says that God is going to tell him what to do and God's going to guide this surgery. I mean, if your confidence in God is that God is capable of anything, then he should be able to pick a random person off the street and walk them in, and you should trust that person more than the godless surgeon. Right?
The first speech I ever gave was when you and I first met at Oklahoma Free Thought Convention in 2011.
Yeah.
And I gave an example in that speech where there's a guy in a gang shooting. Okay. He's walking down the sidewalk, a bunch of gangbangers come out and the guns blaze. Okay. And I play out several scenarios. In the first scenario, all the bullets miss the guy. So all of his believer friends and family say, praise Jesus. God actually directed the bullets away from him. Let's say he's winged. He gets caught in the arm or something. Well, he should have had a much worse injury. Boy, God must have really had his angels all over him. Or let's say he's struck in the spine. He's paralyzed. You know what? God allowed him to live, and through his weakness, he is strong, and there must be a greater purpose for his life. And then if he is killed, God called him home. He is now in a better place where there is no violence. We cannot understand the complex and mysterious mind of God, that one day we'll all be reunited and there will be happy, clappy music and the family dog and a reunion and all those types. There's no scenario where God doesn't get credit, or at least a total pass. And I find that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens. It's God is apparently still the hero of the story,
Amen.
Okay. Josh, calling out of California. Josh, welcome to the show. You're on with Matt Dillahunty and Seth Andrews. Are you there?
Yes. Hi, Matt. Hi, Seth. Before I get into what I wanted to talk to you about, Seth, I just wanted to answer your hypothetical question. As a Christian, 10 times out of 10, I would take the atheist doctor. If I was having a serious health problem, I would 100% put my trust in Christ, but I would want my doctor to think that he or she is God, because I wouldn't want the custody of responsibility to be kicked down the road. So, just speaking for myself, I would prefer the atheist doctor if he or she was the more qualified.
May I jump in quickly and ask, are you not putting a tremendous burden of infallibility upon the physician that you have anointed as God?
No, I'm sorry. I meant that I would prefer that the doctor believe that that he is God or she is God, so to speak. Not that that I'm placing that I think that the person that the doctor has is has a godlike characteristic.
I'm watching my co-host. I
I'm
can see
just,
the thoughts
it
roiling
just seemed
behind his
like an
eyes.
amazingly roundabout way to just say, you think that atheists think they're God. Well, no.
No, I apologize if it came across that way. I'm just saying that with Christian doctors, there might be with Christian people there might be this temptation to just say, well, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and just kind of let the burden of responsibility kind of shift into the spiritual realm. I would prefer a doctor who wasn't necessarily religious, but had the best qualifications, because I would believe that doctor would do everything in their capacity to operate on me.
Sure. So the doctor is going to do everything in their capacity, but you should be contrasting that with whatever's in God's capacity. Isn't God's capacity always going to be greater than their capacity? And so why wouldn't you always opt for God instead of the one that is clearly, definitionally even, diminished?
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Weren't expecting that, were you?
I mean,
I
it's
can
an
hear
interesting.
you laughing. This is all obvious. Have you got what you wanted yet, Josh?
I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I don't
Come
understand the
on,
question.
Josh, just can we just acknowledge this and move on? Do
Well,
you have anything relevant to the show, or are you just sitting here honking us for fun?
No, I'm not. I called 3 weeks ago. You were hosting with Eric, and we were discussing about the testability of Christianity, and
Okay.
the conversation. Yes, the conversation was got hung up on the on God being a candidate explanation for why Christian organizations are spirit-led, so to speak.
I'm
So
lost.
I'm
I'm
Okay.
lost.
So the issue was, you think that this is a testable claim, and the issue was evidently about why you get to consider this as an option, because if the claim is that Christian organizations are spirit-led, right? Is that what the point that we were disagreeing about? Is that what you're trying to demonstrate?
Well, during the conversation, I was explaining that Christian organizations were visibly more generous than other charitable organizations, and one of the conflict in the debate was how can you demonstrate that God is a candidate explanation for why Christian organizations are more generous, and that's where
Okay. Yep. So why?
Well, I that kind of got into a circular discussion, and then
I'm saying my question from before still stands. Why? What is your justification? Why is God a candidate?
Okay, so the reason why I believe God is a candidate explanation is that when you consider the Christian response, the Christian ethic is counterintuitive to what we observe with the secular or non-Christian response.
Actually, I disagree with your premise.
Okay.
Josh, I really need us to dial it in here, my friend. We've got a momentum problem. I disagree. I mean, the church certainly has infrastructure much better than much of the rest of the world when it comes to charitable giving and what those charities are and what they do. Some are meritorious, some have to do with feeding people and building shelters, and some are really more about ideological stuff, going in and becoming colonizers, religious colonizers, where they say, well, yes, we'll feed the sick and we're going to give medicine, we're going to build houses, but we're also going to build a church and you need to accept our Jesus. So, the word charitable does become problematic, and it's contextual. But I lean into what Christopher Hitchens so famously said. He was like, name for me a right and moral action that a believer can do that a non-believer could not also do. And this idea that the Christian ethic stands in contrast with maybe a secular humanist ethic, I don't think stands. The idea of making the world a better place, the reality of an evolved ethical system, understanding that pro-social behaviors help the individual, which helps the tribe, which helps us pass on our genes, blah, blah, blah. So I just simply disagree with your premise, and I think the question itself may be reductive.
Okay. Would I be able to share? Because I wanted to. I was calling in today because I wanted to. I noticed something about the so-called Christian response to the Charlie Kirk assassination that prompted me to call. May I discuss that?
You want to talk about the the Christian community's response to Charlie Kirk?
Yeah. Well, the I believe the testability of the Holy Spirit
Wow.
was evident.
Josh, this is the most awesome thing. Either I'm actually having a stroke or I'm way higher than I thought, or you just completely ignored what I said and jumped right back to your point in your script where you're trying to make the case that God is a candidate explanation for connections that you imagine in your head. I'm sorry that I threw you off script, Josh, but trust me, if you were as high as I feel right now, that I'm tripping balls at the little time loop hiccup you just did because I thought it happened in my brain for a second. Thanks for
On the
calling.
description, I see Holy Spirit is a testable entity. I'm going to give you a
Yeah.
very short window, my friend. How is the Holy Spirit testable?
Okay, it's testable by contrasting uh, the normal expectations of what we would find in response to a partisan tragedy versus the counterintuitive response of true Christian love, specifically forgiveness. The reason I mentioned the Charlie Kirk assassination was because immediately after, in the absence of facts, the right wing, many Christian right wing voices rushed to judgment and blamed extremists, leftists, the quote unquote other. And throughout the response to the Charlie Kirk assassination, I didn't hear really maybe there were, but I didn't hear the message of unity, the message of forgiveness. Instead, the so-called Christian message was about bloodlust, vengeance, getting the other back, that kind of
Josh,
stuff.
I don't think what you did or didn't see is relevant. I mean, we're going to see that stuff from a number of different communities. So what?
Testable
Right.
Holy Spirit, Josh. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I really need to move past. So,
Sure.
how do you test the Holy Spirit? Are you saying you will be known by your works?
What I'm saying is that if 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 Turning Point USA, that organization of Charlie Kirk, gave a message of forgiveness for the assassin, forgiveness for the assassin's parents, the family, that would have demonstrated to me and to others a true faith in Christ, a true working of the
Okay.
Holy Spirit, because it's
All right, Josh.
counterintuitive.
Josh, I appreciate your call. I disagree with that premise. Forgiveness or unforgiveness are not indigenous to any specific religious tradition, certainly Christianity. And we can talk about whether or not forgiveness is even appropriate. But this idea that, well, had they turned the other cheek and had they said, yes, we forgive the murderer, that doesn't guarantee that they are truly people of the Christian God, that the Christian God exists, or that the Holy Trinity, including the Holy Spirit, exists. So I simply disagree with pretty much everything that has been said. I went ahead and dropped the call, Matt. Any final thoughts before we move on? I just
No.
I just don't have anything. I have nothing left to give on that one. So it's felt like we were trying to draw it out. I don't know. I don't really get You can. I see this with, and I like him, James Tallarico, a politician down in Texas. I see it with Pastor John Pavlovitz. I see it with Dr. Kristen Dumais and Amanda Tyler and many other people who profess the Christian faith about how Jesus would never judge. Jesus said, love everyone. And I appreciate that. I appreciate people who are lining their deity, their faith tradition into their own moral compass because they don't want to worship a judgmental, hateful, vengeful God. Their God is going to be a God, I think in many cases, in their image. The problem is that I worry that those people have not properly read the Christian scriptures because you can't, as Westboro Baptist Church has, as many of the agents on the extremist right have, they are using specific scriptures to justify division, the vilification of LGBT people, the calls in some cases for their execution, for a war, civil war, a holy war. They are using it as a blind rationalization for Israel to be able to do whatever it wants to Palestine, and on and on and on. So, hey, someone showed forgiveness, compassion, empathy, generosity, therefore God is not an argument that I find sound in any way. Matt, how you holding up, brother? A little worried about you.
As well you should be.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep trying. In 2 minutes, I get my blood sugar report. But yeah,
All right.
I think.
I mean, I can babble. Hell, I
I
host a
still want to
show on
find.
my
I
own.
still, one of these days, I'm going to go back and find out whether or not that little time skip thing was just happening. It's just so frustrating. If we
That's
can't,
real.
this started with a whole thing a minute ago with the whole why is God a candidate explanation, which is an entirely philosophical question. And you went a different route, which was the better thing to do for sure, which was this notion that we're talking about what does that mean? Human to human, person to person. And that's why some of these things don't have the appeal. And maybe that's why we've been taking the same calls for 20 years and still haven't heard anything new or truly new. I don't know.
I mean, the kumbaya God is love thing. I mean, I'll take that. My Jesus would never condemn gay people. I'll take that, right? If you give me that versus the fire and brimstone, God will burn them. We should execute them. That what's the name of that church segment with those hate preachers, Steven Anderson, et cetera? They're always doing those online sermons that are getting millions of views. They're calling for the execution of non-hetero, and I'll take a progressive Christian over that. I mean, because we line up more in terms of values. And I take it in the teeth from a lot of anti-theists because they think that that's weak sauce. Well, you're giving cover to Christianity if you ally with somebody like James Tallarico or Dr. Dumais or Rachel Lazar, who is a practicing Jew, who's the president of Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Hey, I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with her any day of the week. She is a God believer. A lot of people can't process that. So I don't know.
Yeah. There's side note for another time. When I'm not as distracted, there are different ways to view how you're going to act towards other people in certain scenarios from the humanist perspective when it comes to religion. And that's been fun to discover. Figuring out where you're wrong is a good thing. That's why I've done this for 20 years. It's all figuring out where I'm wrong. And now I'm completely right. Right. I mean, that's
omniscience truly is the goal.
I think I'm God. I don't remember.
I've got a couple of atheists, but if you'll be patient with me, Noah and Caleb, I want to go to, let's see. Oh, this is out of South Africa. Please forgive me if I mispronounce. Is it Sashwat? South Africa. Are you with me? I'd pass the rain.
Caller, you are using the web client. They dropped. Okay,
Yeah,
never mind. I was going to try and help.
All right. Let's try then out of Texas, Fireman. More than mere mortal man. He is now on the switchboard with Seth and Matt on the line. Fireman, welcome. Are you there?
Hey man, thank you, man. Thank you, man.
What's
Is that Matt Dillahunty on the panel?
Well,
like
it's part of him.
in the flesh, incarnate? Yes, he is. The
Wow.
apparition
Okay.
is real.
Hey,
It has attained physical form. Matt Dillahunty is with it. Fireman, what's on your mind?
That's awesome, man. I talked to you years ago, Matt. Man, I enjoy. Even though you got angry with me, I still enjoyed the conversation, and it's one of my great memories to talk to the infamous Matt Dillahunty. How you doing today, man?
Didn't we just talk to you like a week ago?
Yeah, but I don't think I talked to Matt. I don't think Matt was on the panel. I talked to him years ago. I didn't even know if he
Fireman.
still come on. I didn't even know if he still come on the panel. Hey, what's up?
What's
Yep.
on your mind? What would you like to
Oh, I'm
speak
sorry.
about today?
I'm sorry.
No worries.
We'll catch up another time.
I was just trying to be a little formal before I come in. But anyway, my argument is the discrepancies within atheism.
If atheism is merely the rejection of the claim that a God exists, how could there be any discrepancy? So there couldn't be multiple discrepancies. And so even if there were a discrepancy, then you're just saying that the rejection of the claim is false. So how do you prove that the claim it would be an error to reject the claim? Oh, you'd have to show it's true. So what's your demonstration that a God exists?
No, my demonstration is not that a God exists, but that atheists say that they believe that they don't believe in God because of a lack of evidence, correct?
No, some atheists, that is their reason. Other atheists have other reasons.
Right. But ultimately, you all don't believe in a God, correct?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that it seems strange to me that you're still upholding the values of the Bible and God.
We're not upholding the values of we're not upholding the values of the Bible. So you're saying we uphold some of them? Why is it that you suggest that we're upholding a lot of them? Cool. Why are you supposing that we value a lot of them and not others?
Well, I don't know. All I don't understand is the fact that you still uphold a lot of the values that are in the Bible, and it just doesn't make sense to me why you would hold on to any of the values. To be honest,
we're not holding on to those values. Those values, to the extent that we share them, are things that were stolen from us. I'd rather not die. I'd rather not have the people around me die. I recognize that this is harmful for the world. And so my preference is that murder, the unlawful killing of someone, should be considered immoral and forbidden. Now that's in my model. The fact that you think some version of your religion agrees with me doesn't mean I've taken something from your religion. It means your religion is trying to take something from me.
Right. And when I confront you with these discrepancies, I've talked to enough of you atheists to know exactly the talking points you're going to run to. One you're going to run to
talking points. How can you ignore what I just said?
What?
Speaking of talking points, I said, speaking of talking points, it's funny how you ignored what I just said. And about the fact that there's only one way, it's only one possible discrepancy, and that's if you demonstrate that there's a God. And he went through all the little aspects of that, and then immediately went back to asserting that there were discrepancies. There are no discrepancies.
I'm going to address that. First, I'm going to talk about the talking points. I know I'm just that good, sir, at what I do. I've studied enough of you atheists to know your talking points. And I know that you're going to, when I bring up my talking points, you're going to run.
With all humility.
Listen,
I think that's in the Bible. Hey, Fireman, hang on. Hold on. I'm not going to let Fireman, I am not going to let you go off into oblivion yet. I want to know which values I, as an atheist, have taken from Christianity.
Okay. Thou shalt not steal. Let me ask you something. Do you think it's right if I come to your house and rob you and take all your stuff? Is that right or wrong?
No, that's not the question. The
You asked
question
me,
is,
yeah, I'm telling you what values you upholding that the
the
Bible and
question
God
is
uphold,
not,
sir. What do you mean?
no, I don't believe theft is moral, no. But I also think there are contexts where people have stolen things for the purpose of survival. And I think
Right.
things like the Ten Commandments are jaw-droppingly reductive and without context. They exist in a binary universe where the world does not. My question to you is, are there not pre-Christian civilizations who have operated with moral codes that say don't steal, don't harm, don't murder, don't own slaves, etc.? Are there cultures, faith traditions, human beings well beyond and often before Christianity that acted in moral ways? Because if that's the truth, then they didn't steal it from the Bible. The Bible has those things, but they are echoes. They are not the source.
Yeah. Yeah. There probably are other books that say the same thing. And all I would say is that those books are right too. And it still makes you wrong. Even if the Quran says that stealing is wrong,
just for clarity,
taking a life is wrong.
Fireman, just for clarity, you're saying your book and these other books that you disagree with all agree with us, and it's the case that they're right and we're wrong, even though we're all in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, that means that those books that you say are wrong are right. Whatever it may be, it's only validifying those values that you believe in. That's what I'm saying. If the Bible says
No,
it's
you're
not right
saying
to
we
steal,
stole it from the Bible, and when I'm pointing out there are things we agree with, we didn't have to borrow it from there. The Bible was built out of things that we already understood. As human beings writing down how people felt about certain things. Some things we've grown beyond and learned better. Like some of us have learned that sparing the rod, spoiling the child language that's been used for corporal punishment actually makes the world worse. And so while we may have a more nuanced position on something, there's nothing about the fact that there are theists or some biblical interpretation that may agree with me. Doesn't say anything about which one came from where. And it also doesn't say which one is superior. Mine is.
so I will ask you specifically, right? If I come to your house and take your stuff, which would be robbery, right? Would you say
Yep.
that was right or wrong?
I would say that was illegal, and it's illegal
Yeah.
irrespective of whether it's immoral. And I would also say it's
Yeah.
immoral.
Yeah. I know you would say those things, and that's exactly what the Bible says, sir. So you agree with the Bible.
Yes. At what
What I'm
point?
saying is a simple concept.
No,
even though you
fireman,
try to dance around.
fireman. The fact that the Bible and I are in agreement, perhaps, on that issue is not equivalent to me agreeing with the Bible on all of the issues.
Mhm. What about not unaliving somebody, cold-blooded murder? Is that that's the only thing you
I wasn't quite done. If you take a whole bunch of different positions and compare them, where do you get with that?
It shows that you still have. Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I know atheists would say that we are not a religion, correct?
Who's the we there in your atheism? Atheism is not a religion. Atheism
all
is not a
atheists.
religion.
Atheists are all a monolith, apparently. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
But now, with that being said, atheists, that's the reason why I can never draw a conclusion until I talk to a specific atheist. But the ones that I've talked to have said, hey, fireman, we're not a religion. I mean, they stand on that. Hey, we're not a religion. But what would you say? You have a belief? You still believe something? You still have a belief?
I believe I'm talking to you right now. I believe that it's probably wiser for me to talk to you than it is to just hang up on you for now.
Look, can I jump in? Look, atheism is
Here's
not
the thing, man.
hang on, fireman. Atheism
All
is
right.
simply the admission that I don't buy it, like for whatever reason. And there are rational atheists and there are irrational atheists. There are people who've come to atheism for logical reasons, and those who say the aliens told me that there is no God. I mean, there's no other guarantee
Right.
about that. It just means I don't buy it. Now, I do have a set of beliefs, and I call that humanism. I believe because there is no evidence for another world, a higher power, first cause, a father figure, cosmic justice, etc., that I believe human beings need to be here for each other to address and solve human problems. So that is what I believe. But it's not atheism. It is more proactive. It is humanism. And there's a difference.
You know what? I think you atheists have the wrong name. I think that's what the problem. I think you should maybe be called socialist, because it seems like even though
Matt,
you
is
don't
he
believe in
trolling us?
God,
Is
listen.
this a
Even
troll?
though
I don't
listen.
know.
Hang on. I'm going to put him on mute for just a second.
Fireman,
Yeah, you got experience with this guy. Is he real? You think?
I don't know that I have. I mean, fireman, just for clarity, atheism is the rejection of the claim that theism is justified. That's it. But let's just make it. Theist is yes, God, and atheist is no God. However you want to take it. Let's just assume that for a second. What does that have to do with what you were talking about?
Well, it seems even though you guys don't believe in God, you still believe in some type of social structure and social
Right?
order, meaning good and bad, right and wrong, values and morals. And
Isn't
and all I'm
that
saying
what a
is
socialist
that
is?
right. So that's the reason why
Okay.
I use the name socialist, and I think that's might be a more appropriate name for you guys, because you just don't believe in a God, but you still believe in some kind of social order. And I'm saying that that's the reason why I agree more with nihilists. That's what gets me to my next point. I believe that after that point, nothing matters, but the atheist seems to still want to hold on to the same values as Christians, when it doesn't, at the end of the day.
I don't
If
have the
if
same.
I'm just
I
born,
don't have the
if I'm
same.
just
I don't
born,
have the
hold
same.
on, let
I
me
don't
finish.
have the. I do. No. I'm
Let
not
me
going to
finish.
hold on and let you. I'm not going to hold on and let you finish.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You got it. It's your show. Go ahead.
I've already. So I'm so high right now. I've already forgotten what you were talking about. That's how absolutely boring it was.
Yeah, you'll see it's boring. No, it's intriguing. It's
No.
interesting.
The whole issue here was that you have this view that someone's either an atheist or a socialist. And all I
No,
was
when
saying
I
is,
explained to you
"Hey,
what I
no,
meant by
dos."
socialism.
Why would I use so when somebody's talking to me about whether or not a God exists, why would I say I'm a socialist? It only makes sense in that context to describe myself as an atheist. If somebody says, "Hey, where are you on the political social spectrum over here?" and I say, "Pretty much a socialist," that's when I would use that label. Why is it you're looking for one label to replace one of the others? Go tell all
Well,
the
I'm also
socialists they should just call themselves atheists, right?
I'm hearing a little bit of a Jesus is a laissez-faire capitalist undercurrent to that claim as well. I guess maybe he's free market Jesus, apparently. So yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop you. I forgot that you're really, really, really good at this.
Yeah, I am. I was just making sure you was done.
I'm going to give you one more crack. All right. Tell me again why atheism is an unreasonable position and why there are discrepancies among atheists when they simply don't believe in a God.
Because we just come here and we're born, we live and we die. There's no rhyme or reason. Nothing matters, sir.
To you or to me?
Period. Who cares about a personal feeling? Your personal feeling doesn't matter. You'll be
All
here,
right,
you'll
hang on.
grow, you'll die,
Hold on.
and you're
Hold
gone.
on. Hold on. I appreciate the call, Fireman. I think we've heard quite enough. A couple of things as my skeleton falls behind me. I'm sorry for the clanging.
no.
Poor support. Poor support. I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I value life much more now that I am not a religious person, because if there is no heaven and there is no evidence for a posthumous existence, and if there is no life 2.0, what happens here is all the more critical. This is one shot. So it is now that we must say the words, and we must love who we love, and we must try to build the things we want, and we should try, if we want to leave some kind of legacy that is a physical one here for others to follow and to benefit from. We simply must realize the preciousness, the fragility, the temporal nature of our existence if there is no next chapter. And I find in my own life that this is a motivation to act with even more grace, with even more love, with more empathy, more charity, more humanity. I don't get to blow it off and say cosmic justice. There will be, all the perpetrators of evil will one day get theirs on the judgment seat of God. Or that the people who are suffering now will one day be in a better place. So I can just brush it off and get on with my day. Oh, somebody's suffering? Tough. I'll pray for you. Pass the salt. You don't get to do that when you believe there is only one life and there's no evidence for a God, heaven, nirvana. I don't care what. The second thing is, with Matt, I resist this idea that because it's in the Bible, and even because Jesus said it, that it's automatically good. A great example came up last week in a conversation where somebody was talking about how you're supposed to love your enemies and forgive everybody. This has been language that has been weaponized by abusers since forever. How many people have been under somebody else's boot? How many people have had the shit kicked out of them in their lives, and they were programmed, baked into their mind was this guilt trip that if they were to be a good soldier, a person of faith, the right kind of Christian, that they are supposed to submit or forgive everybody, to turn the other cheek. This has been used to make victims out of people since forever. And I think it's a poor teaching. And it's just one of thousands of examples in the Christian Bible. And if something happens to cross over, and there's a scripture that says something lovely, it's not indigenous to the Bible. It existed elsewhere. And so pointing to the Bible simply shows me maybe there was a Venn diagram going on there. I don't know. That's my rant, Matt Dillahunty. Did you have anything else you wanted to toss in on the fireman since I dumped his call?
I wouldn't dare. Not related to what you were saying, but what Fireman is talking about is the same thing of, but atheism leads to nihilism. Okay, well, wouldn't we have to have a secondary conversation about whether or not there's an actual problem with nihilism or an actual problem with, you don't just assume, this is bad, when what you're talking about atheism naturally leading to may be true, even though none of it's preferable. I'd rather that, climate change wasn't probably leading to our destruction, or that World War III wasn't, right around the corner. But just because you think one thing necessarily led someplace doesn't mean that fatalism as a perspective should be the preferred choice.
Let's talk to Noah, N-O-A. I hope I'm saying it right, out of Indiana. Noah, you with us?
Oh, it's N-O-A-H, like the Ark. I forgot I was on hold.
No. I'm glad I'm not the only one on the show with an Old Testament name. And then we got Matthew covering the Gospels. So we got a three-way going. Little Trinity action.
The Gospel of Matt. Yep.
What's on your mind?
I feel like my question's probably pretty short, I guess. After that last call, I kind of got lost.
Take a number.
Yeah. I'm a
we're all in the phantom zone.
Go ahead.
All right, go
Yeah,
ahead,
the
Noah.
Phantom
Go ahead.
Zen.
Go ahead.
I was just, I am an atheist, but I'm also a practicing neo-pagan, and I was trying to think of what exactly really the difference is. I mean, I don't know exactly where to take it. I mean, we kind of hold imagination in a similar regard. It's a physical thing. It's just there's a lot more games to neo-paganism than atheism, I guess. I had my question narrowed down to be concise, and now I've forgotten how to phrase it
Well,
exactly.
in the
Well,
description
at least we're on the
on the
same page.
switchboard, what is the difference between an atheist and a nature worshiper? Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, that might have been what I put down there. That was kind of the thought. I mean, it's very similar in substance. I mean, if you ask me about God, I'd just be like, what God? And if you ask me about fairies, I would just say, well, it's a creature of imagination. Your imagination is a physical thing, just like your brain is. So, I mean, kind of real. It's sort of ish, but it is imagination. So I'm just kind of struggling with my terms a little bit, and I thought maybe you and Matt would have a little elder perspective. I mean, you're not that much older than me, but you're still like my
That
seniors.
wounds me. That wounds me.
Oh,
Just
yeah, no wounds intended.
look, no, I'm lost. I have no idea what the hell we're talking about. Matt, were you tracking
Yeah,
better than me?
I tried
I have
to,
a
but
lot of very
I mean,
obscure stuff. I'm
literally,
sorry.
I mean,
Hang on.
if you guys genuinely knew how I felt right now, but it felt like you were saying that because something can be imagined, that makes it real in some regard. Was that right?
In some regard, in the way that dreams are real things.
Well, what's real about a dream? Because we're talking about a bunch of, everything, every thought, every concept is just a brain state. And so if you get reductivist down to the physical, boom, you're done. But even if you don't, how does what you're saying, how do you get to what you're saying because of that?
How do I get to what I'm saying because of that? I guess in terms of say gods, for example, I think about that sometimes. That yeah, in a sort of a way, God is real because you imagined it.
So
so what is the legitimacy of that?
that's
point?
yeah, that's the kind of thing I think I was hearing. Essentially, was that this notion that it's real in some respect because you can imagine it. But I mean, do you look at other things or is everything that can be imagined real in that same respect?
Well, in a way, sort of, yes. I mean, that's the game of it.
Would any of these things normatively be described as real? Like, would we talk about whether or not whether or not this cell phone I'm holding is real? That's clearly not the same context at all, right?
Right, but your brain is still a real physical thing, and the thoughts are contained in the brain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of the difference between taking a shower or performing a cleansing ritual. And I'm kind of at the point of
Are you late to a drum ritual?
The drum ritual. I feel like that's a reference that I'm not quite getting.
It's all right. You
But
you
I
don't
like
have to get the reference. So I guess what I'm getting to is that you're calling into. It seems suggest. How do you why is there a difference between the labels? Because atheism is obviously just about a god versus nature worship is about, whether or not you view nature in some sort of theistic concept. Those things are completely separate. But even on that front, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm only using
I don't know that
God
the
as an
notion that
example.
you're determining, like when I talk about whether something's real, if it is imagination, it ain't real. It is true that someone imagined something. It is not true that the thing they imagined persists or is real. That's, I guess, the shorthand for that.
Do we get too far off into the weeds if we start to ask what people mean by real or not? Is that one of those things philosophers like to get lost on? Because
I was trying really hard not to go there.
Matt, is this like a riff on the ontological thing? If it can be, help me out. I may be conflating something in my brain. Like if you can imagine it, then it must. I don't know.
I don't know if I'd put it in the same category for that issue, but I mean, it's. I get the point here. Well, I've already lost the point here as well. So sorry, Noah.
That's kind of where my problem is. I apologize. I was kind of at that point where
we're talking about the firing.
I thunked too hard.
Look, if the firing of our synapses are producing an image, then is that image real? And if it is, I'm terrified. Because if I dream I'm swimming in an Olympic-sized pool of cottage cheese.
Or nightmares.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh, God.
Is that the fallacy of confusing the map for the place?
Yeah.
I have a map of Austin, Texas. That is not Austin, Texas. No matter how detailed the map is or anything else, that is not, Austin, Texas. And so this is what, this is the fallacy that was going on here.
Sort of. Yeah, no,
but the map and the place are not identical. That's the point,
right?
Is if here's the map and here's the place, and if we're talking about the place, you don't get to reference the map at all, and vice versa.
I actually do think that is somewhat helpful in clarifying, as confusing as that may sound. But yeah, that actually does help me a little bit.
Confusing is a great word. Noah, thanks for calling the show. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Thank you guys for tolerating me.
No worries.
You guys have a wonderful one as well. Thanks for chatting with me for a second.
You bet. By the way, we do have some room on the switchboard for theist callers to take priority. I see a couple of heathens who are queued up. Caleb and Nadine, I do see you there. But if there's somebody else who you want to defend the faith, the Bible tells us that you need to go out and represent, or maybe it's another deity or a spirit, a ghost, something somewhere. We would like to hear from you. I think. I don't know. Maybe we don't want to hear. I don't know. But I'd like you to give it a shot. There was something I was going to ask you, Matt, and it just disappeared. You ever do that? I do it more as I get older.
I do it more as I get older, but literally, I kid you not, I've got about 18 seconds, I think, of memory. Like, I don't remember what we were talking about 20 seconds. Just today, because I'm sick. I'm not saying it's not like I'm living memento or something, but just today being sick, that's kind of the reality.
Oh, we could so jack with you. We could so jack with you. While I'm waiting for the God Defenders to call and engage. Oh, look, another biblical name, Caleb out of Illinois. Welcome to the show. You're on the line. The Sunday show with Seth and Matt. What's going on?
Hi, Matt and Seth. Thanks for taking my call. So I have been kind of struggling with something lately. I've been an atheist for most of my life, probably since my early teens, and I'm now in my 30s. And I've never, ever since that point, I've never believed in a God, never believed in an afterlife, never believed in, kind of the Bible or any other kind of religious text like that. I was raised Lutheran and Unitarian, but rejected both of those pretty early on. But lately, ever since the birth of my son, who now he turned 1 recently, sometimes I look at him and the thought gets into my mind of there will be a day where I won't get to see him again. And that really upsets me to the point where it kind of makes me want to believe in an afterlife again. And I was just wondering, how do you guys deal with those kind of religious thoughts that pop up into your head when you're just thinking about something and they just crop up? And if you had any advice for that.
Matt?
Well, I don't think that any of your beliefs are voluntary. And so to me, it seems futile because I don't have those sort of scenarios pop up, or I can't remember when I did. I've lost it. See, this is what I mean. Literally, this is it's 18 seconds of memory.
Fortunately, you're co-hosting with someone who cannot shut the hell up. So I'll jump in if I may. Matt's absolutely correct. I think what I'm hearing, though, is that you miss or you understand and maybe even in some context emotionally crave the concept or some of the concepts that religions provide, some of the stories that some of these faith traditions have sold and told over the centuries. We've all lost people, and we think, I miss them in my gut. I almost said soul, but you know what I mean. Like I would do so much to be able to be with them again, and the idea of being without them just tears me apart inside. And I wish there was a world where there wasn't 25,000 starvation deaths every day, and that people were diagnosed with cancer, and that oppressive tyrants weren't murdering people by the tens of thousands, and that the planet wasn't trying to always swallow us up, and we could actually live in peace and harmony and love and all that good stuff. I mean, I understand we yearn for that kind of utopia where maybe we could all just sort of not have to deal with the suffering. And I think that has great appeal. But the fact that we crave it and we fantasize about it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not we believe it. Are you saying that you kind of wish you could will yourself into belief to help balm this reality of a temporary life?
That's a good question. And I think it's more that I'm just kind of falling on those old habits of when I was younger and more religious before I became atheist, and that want of that comfort to be there. Because I know that the world ultimately is a kind of a cruel place, and whether or not there is an afterlife, I guess we will never know. But I think it's just that I never used to have these thoughts at all. I never even thought of an afterlife until like my son was born. And I think maybe it is just that comfort of wanting to be able to, when I pass on, that I will be able to eventually see him again one day. It's just both a comfort and kind of terrifying at the same time, because ultimately, I don't want there to be an afterlife, because that would prove a lot of the evil Christians in my life right. And they don't want that responsibility.
No, not necessarily,
So.
Caleb. An afterlife could take many forms. Let me tell you a story real fast, okay? And I think, first of all, what you say is what has helped me to approach believers who have sick relatives or have lost loved ones or whatever, who were talking about heaven. In many cases, I understand that they are desperately trying to cope with the unthinkable by saying in their heart, we will be reunited, or I want to be reunited. And I understand that. And I think we can approach them with empathy, right? They're trying to deal. They're self-medicating. And if we are to be flesh and blood, humanist human beings, I think that has to be approached with compassion. Doesn't mean that there is an afterlife, but the idea of an afterlife isn't indigenous to Christianity, man. I mean, it could be, I'm just going to call reincarnation an afterlife. Or let's say you go out and you become something else, or you're incorporated into another body, or you're in the comet behind or the spaceship behind the comet, or whatever. I mean, there are a squillion variations of an afterlife, but the most appealing ones are the ones where we are no longer separated from those that we miss terribly. And we live in a place where there is no suffering, or there is at least less suffering. And I think your feelings to that end are understandable. But when does what I want dictate what is? I want a world here where people live a full life and aren't struck down in car wrecks and whatnot. I want a world where people aren't abusing other people and there isn't rape and murder and all that. I want us all to be able to live without having to scrounge for basic necessities and our medicines and having to lock our doors at night. I want. But what I want really has nothing to do with what is or what there is evidence for. And so I think you and I, as human beings, are then necessarily placed in a spot where we have to deal with the reality that we have. We have to play the cards that we are dealt. And my advice to you, and it's imperfect, would be to really not focus on the one day, but to focus on the here and now. You and your child are drawing breath on this planet at the same moment. You have beaten the odds of existence. You are here together. And I think much can be enjoyed between both of you in the decades to come. And that's where I'd place my energy and focus, because the rest is something we can't control. Does that make any sense?
No, that does make sense. And sorry, I'm just a little emotional just from thinking about all this.
You're fun.
But
You're fun.
that does make sense. And I really do want to just kind of let go of all this worry and kind of harmful thought of, well, I guess I shouldn't say harmful of thought of an afterlife, but just something that's kind of holding me back, I guess, from enjoying just this time that I have right now. So I do understand your point. And it's actually kind of funny, if you don't mind me going off on a tangent for a second, but
Yeah.
I used to think the idea of an afterlife was terrifying because it would be incredibly boring. Like, what would you talk about for eternity? And that seems so silly in retrospect, and it's just kind of funny that I kind of feel myself wanting that afterlife now, after so many years of not caring about it. But I think I do
Do me
need
a
to
favor.
just.
Do me a
Yep.
favor, Caleb. I haven't seen it in a decade. I produced it 13 years ago, 14 years ago, featuring a lot of voices from the skeptical community at that time. But it's a video called Afterlife. And I think you should be able to just type into YouTube, The Thinking Atheist, which is the title name of the channel, The Thinking Atheist Afterlife. And you'll see on the thumbnail image for the video, you'll just see a candle and the word afterlife. And it's like a 12-minute think piece about this life and a potential life to come. And I may be dated. I'm trying to remember exactly how it all went together. It's been so long, but it seems to have helped some people in these conversations about a finite existence. And some people have walked away encouraged. And I would encourage you to seek that out. But you may need to be willing yourself into a mindset where I'm going to focus on the here and now. You and I probably what if ourselves into oblivion sometimes, don't we? What happens then? What if? And then we forget to live in the moment. And I think you've got some amazing moments ahead of you with your kid. And I think that's where the focus is. Seize the day. Carpe diem. And as cliche as that sounds, I still think it's good advice. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to check out that video. So thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, you bet. All right, brother. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. And I hope Matt feels better.
Well, we'll keep an eye on him. We'll thoughts and prayers. Thanks, bro. We'll see you later. It's funny. You come to the point where you've been activisting as long as I have, and this is a trap. I have to watch myself because it becomes a cliche, and then people make fun of me in the chat, in the comments. But someone will say something, and I go, "Oh, I wrote about this in my book." Somebody was giving me shit about that. Seth's always mentioning his book. Well, the problem is, I've written, well, 4 books plus 2 of the Ghost Stories books. I've narrated all these other books, for people like Dr. Dave Madison and Josh Bowen and Dr. Abby Hafer, who we just lost, by the way, a few months ago. Talk about somebody I'd like to be able to have a reunion with. We lost Dr. Hafer to cancer. She'd been struggling with her health for a very long time. She was supposed to speak at the Blue Water Atheist Humanist Conference in Sarnia, Ontario. And we found out just before the event in early August that she had died. And she wrote this great book called The Not So Intelligent Designer. And she allowed me to narrate the audiobook. And her work was important. But more than that was the light that she shined here. She was a remarkable human being. And I understand this desire. I would like to be able to hang with Abby again. I would like to be able to spend time and just have that, magnetic personality in my life again. But unfortunately, these are not the cards that I have been dealt. And if one day it turns out that, there's an afterlife and, oh, look, hey, there's Abby. Awesome. What was it Hitch said right before he passed away? Of esophageal cancer. Somebody asked about him, what if there is an afterlife? And he said, well, I rather like surprises. And he kind of winked at the camera. There's a documentary about the life and the death of film critic Roger Ebert. And you may have heard his name with Siskel and Ebert at the movies. They were huge in the 80s and the 90s as they would just sit down and they would review movies. And you can find these reviews on YouTube, and they're still amazing, even now as they're reviewing some of the classics, And they would argue with each other, and they would carry on. Roger Ebert wrote film reviews for the Chicago Sun-Times, and he was a household name for a long, long time. Well, he developed cancer, and I want to say it was up here in the jaw. I don't think it was esophageal, but it was up here somewhere that he developed the kind of cancer where they had to remove the jaw from his face and he lost the ability to speak. And he had to write everything that he was thinking. The documentary about him is called My Life, and it's remarkable and it's amazingly moving. But my point is this. I don't think he was a religious person. There was no indication that he believed in God or certainly a heaven. And as he was really on the bubble near the end of his life, there was no talk about, him going on as far as in a religious context. But he and his wife had a conversation that I've never forgotten. I told Natalie about this. They said one of their favorite places in life was they went to the strawberry patch. I don't know if it was part of a garden or something. And it was just this beloved spot for the two of them. And the two had a conversation and they said, if anything happens to either one of us, if there is another life, I will meet you with the strawberries. And I think that's remarkable. It's innocent. It's kind of charming. There's no high control religious baggage. There's nothing superstitious about it. It really speaks to the desire to be together. It's an expression of affection and love in the moment now. And I told Nat, we don't do strawberries, but you know what I mean. If something exists out there, I'll meet you at the strawberries, What a lovely sentiment. And I think, what if there is, hey, if it happens to be true, and we go on in some context, what does that cost me? Whatever. But I so far have not seen any evidence to support that. Nadine is calling out of Georgia. Nadine, welcome to the show. You're on with me. Matt's had to take, I think, a hiatus. He's really under the weather and he needs to be taking care of himself. We may or may not see him for the rest of the show. So you're stuck with me, Nadine. Are you there?
Hi, Seth. How are you? Oh, you handsome devil, you.
Semi-conscious and ready for this phone call. What's on your mind?
Hey, Seth. How are you, handsome devil?
Well, you're very sweet. It's all soft focus. It's all
No,
focus.
I just want.
All done
Well,
with
I'm
you.
worried about Matt. He knows that I have cancer, and all the thoughts and prayers that they have sent me, nothing has worked. Yeah, I really wanted to get into that because the other day when you guys were talking about Charlie Kirk and all this wonderful Christians that were praying for him and all this stupid shit that was going on, and they lowered the goddamn flag to have mass, well, all the stupid shit they did for him. Meanwhile, right after he got shot, all these children got shot in school. Okay, where all they said is thoughts. How many? You know, there's been 100 freaking school shootings already, and the year's not even up. Okay, including the children that got killed in that church. Where was God? Was he busy someplace else?
I understand.
Is that
I
his
understand your
plan?
concerns.
Because when something like that, that's God's plan. It's God's plan to destroy these children and the ones that are left alive traumatized for the rest of their lives. You understand? And the parents suffering and all this shit. Is that God's plan? That's what I want to know.
Well, one of the narratives is that it's not God's plan, but because of the fallibility of humankind, sin in the world, etc., God can no longer properly protect everybody. And therefore, with his hand of protection withdrawn, then the devil gets to go in and evil prevails. And evil is the reason that mass shootings take place. That's one of the rationalizations that is given by the church. It's also a convenient way for them to vilify everybody else that they blame for being the cause of evil. But I understand your frustration, Nadine.
I live in a neighborhood. Look, I went to the store a little earlier. I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of Southern Baptists. I'm in Georgia. And they were coming out of church, and in front of the store, there was this woman. She had a walker, black lady, and she was barefoot the whole night out. She's asking for water. Can somebody get me water? Now, here are these people that are coming, I guess, coming from their religious service or whatever. And they stop and pray for her and keep walking. Nobody got her the goddamn water. Meanwhile, the atheist here went inside the store, got a water and a sandwich.
Yeah, what is that meme? Thoughts and, I've seen so many memes along this line.
I'm so angry.
Someone said thoughts and prayers when you care enough to do the very least. And sometimes, not always, but I think sometimes that is the case. People are like, I'll pray for you. And that then apparently gives them license to be able to turn their back on the physical problem and then go. And I think, my suspicion is they don't even pray. I think it's just a way for them
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that. Thank you.
Nadine, the problem with you is that you never say what you're thinking. Come out of your shell. Don't be such a wallflower. You've got to actually express yourself on the show today. I'm being facetious.
If I were to really express myself, I'm a loud-ass Puerto Rican. If I was really to express myself, Seth, I'm sorry.
This is what the show is for. Hey, this is your forum, so let it all out. I'm just having a little fun with you. So, if I may, there are some people who, and I was one of these people who believed, I hadn't really thought it through, but I did believe that prayer had some power and we would pray. There are some people who they will put their arms around someone and bow their head and pray because it is the way they have been conditioned by family culture and their faith tradition to show concern. Hey, Lord, please be with Bob, and just let him know how much we care. And there are some sincere people who it's not all of what they do, but it's a part of the puzzle. And then they'll bring meals and they'll say, is there anything we can do to help you with the kids? Do you need any errands done? Do you have work in the house that needs to be done? Can we visit you in the hospital? And it must be said that those believers who are praying also put their money where their mouth is, and they participate in a very ironically humanistic way to help other people. But I think there are a shit ton of other people where they just make prayer a platitude. It's a get out of helping free card, and then they get to pat themselves on the head for being a good Christian. And I think that's just total horseshit, right, Nadine?
So do I.
Yeah. Anything
It's
else?
total horseshit. No, I just wanted to give my love to Matt and let people know, that stop thoughts and prayers and start acting, because without action, nothing is going to change. The children are going to keep. I have 18 grandchildren, 9 great-grandchildren. I'm going to enjoy them while I'm alive, because I know after I'm dead, I'm not going to see anyone. For the gentleman before, I look at my father's pictures, I scream, I yell, I do everything. Nothing, nada. Okay? We're all human beings, and we got to care for each other as humans. Okay? I don't know if you knew the story of how I became an atheist. I thought my family was Christian. Now, we had all kinds of Christians in my family, being Puerto Rican, and I'm from the Lower East Side. Okay? And we were coming home from church, from all different churches in the small neighborhood on the Lower East Side. They were beating this guy up, this junkie up. And why did all these Christians start yelling instead of, please, Lord, no, kill him, kill that son of a bitch, he's a thief, in Spanish. And my father was an atheist, okay? Was the only one that used to go around the neighborhood feeding the junkies and the hobos. Okay, he would make me go downstairs. Here, take this to Paulie. Here, take this to this one. Here, take this to that one. The only one that came down to protect that guy that was getting beat up was my father. And he said, all you Christians just came from church in Spanish. This is what you do. And my father went and saved his life. The atheist.
That's a good point.
Stop your bullshit.
What is that line by Madeline Murray O'Hare that two hands working, I'm paraphrasing, 2 hands working are more powerful than 1,000 hands clasped in prayer. I think that's absolutely spot on to what you're saying, Nadine. So thank you.
Thank you, and give Matt my love and I thoughts and prayers. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the message will get to him, and if not, I'll call him and tell him personally. Nadine says,
love him dearly, and I love you too, and all you guys.
Thank you very much.
Be blessed, my love.
All right. We'll see you later. You ever slip into that? I mean, I don't think blessing is necessarily a religious term. When I do hear someone say, have a blessed day, I do tend to think they're speaking from a perspective of the Christian. Have a blessed day. But, you can be a blessing to someone in the secular sense and the humanist sense. In that sense, Nadine was a blessing to me. Encouraged me. Said very kind things to me. Called me a handsome devil. My age, I'll take that. I'll take that. More and more when I look in the mirror, I see my father. It's terrifying. I'm just like, wait a minute. It's like a science fair experiment. Where did that blemish come from? Oh, look, new wrinkles, less hair, more gray hair. I'm losing my memory. I can't eat pizza after 8 o'clock. I'm in bed by 9:30 and I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm doing old people shit. What's going on? Turning into my father. But I'll take handsome devil. You're very kind. I had somebody in the chat I couldn't help but notice. Was it Seth, S-E-T? Said, I can't think of a less interesting show than Seth Andrews hosting by himself. Seth, I could not agree more, or disagree. I could not agree more. I agree with you. Sure. This is banal, vanilla, bland, boring. Everyone should you should close the browser now. Because it is me and not me and Matt. I'm just saying. I agree with you. A man of greater gifts could have hosted the show solo. Sadly, you're stuck with a mere mortal like Seth Andrews. Let's talk to Mojo. Ooh, another call out of Texas. Neighbor of mine down south. Seth? Hi, Mojo. Are you there?
I'm here. I have some questions for you, some legitimate questions, and I have a big dog. If you're hearing that, I'm sorry. She'll stop in a minute because She always thinks the phone is for her.
What kind of dog?
She's a half pit bull,
Oh,
but I didn't
precious.
know she
What's
was
her
a
name?
pit bull.
What's
Her
her
name
name?
is Callie. Kalima.
Oh,
I didn't know
precious.
she
You know,
was a pit bull. I thought when my daughter, they always bring home the dogs, right? And then the mothers wind up keeping them. And I thought she was a beagle. Swear to God. 90
I
pounds
think
later,
pits
she's a pit bull.
pits get a bad rap. I really, I know that there are tendencies in different breeds, but I tend to think that more than not, it really comes down to conditioning and the owner. And our neighbor just got a pity, and I mean, her name's Lily. Lovely velvety light brown coat and great big blue eyes, and she is the sweetest little puppy. And do you talk to your dogs this way? Do you talk to your doggy like this, Mojo?
Of course, except when I'm yelling at her to zip, because there's a butterfly. Okay, so before my legitimate question, one of your callers was saying something that I heard from Jiminy Cricket, from Jesus, from I don't know what, right? Your screener had a difficult time pinning me down because I'm pretty much non-denominational. But whatever in this horrible car accident, when my best friend died next to me, what I heard was, if you take care of the here and now, the hereafter will take care of itself. That's just a little something for the caller before then, right? Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm trying to process this. So you're not invoking like karma. You're saying that if there happened to be an afterlife and you were a
I
worthy
don't know.
person.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm not even sure. What my take of that was to take care of the here and now. Love the people that you know. Say this to them. Show this to them. And don't worry about the hereafter. Take care of the here and now, and the hereafter is going to happen, right? Like, I was telling your caller, right? 325 million people on this planet are Buddhists. They don't believe in some creator God, and they're getting along just fine, right? It is what you are doing right now in the here and now. It's how you treat your neighbor, your fellow man, humankind, the planet Earth. Right?
I think if I was, I think, who did I say that if I was part of any religious tradition, well, I mean, there are secular religions, non-theistic religions, etc. But I mean, secular Buddhism has a lot. I mean, it's far from perfect, but this idea of mindfulness, living in the moment,
Right?
especially with all the white noise of the world all around us, the chaos that's happening, our brains are not wired for that. With all the cruelty, to be able to find our bliss and to find
There's a
others who
balance.
find their bliss. Yeah, I get that.
Because you slip into hedonism, right? We've got a lot of horrible hedonism going on right now. We got Pippy Dippy, P Diddy up there. We got the Epstein stuff. We got a lot of horrible hedonism going on, and I'm not exactly sure you can blame that on something outside of ourselves, right? Maybe you can, but where this is coming from is inside of us.
I'm not sure I would use the word hedonism there. I think we're talking, in that sense, you're talking about psychopathic predatory behaviors, abuser behaviors.
The society and money is affording, right? We're all willing to look at Cassie Ventura getting beat up in that hallway, and still he's got people out there cheering to let him go because of, and it's not just him, right? I don't mean to pick him out of them all. We've got Hugh Hefner. We've got, all for decades here that we have been focusing, and I don't know. I am non-denominational. I feel like I'm evolving into something that's I don't know what. Maybe you can help me with that.
I want to draw back just a little bit. Okay, I don't think hedonism is the word that we're looking for here. I don't know what Hugh Hefner has to do with anything. I mean, other than the fact that he was obscenely rich, and there were some accusations.
Not a sex
Okay.
cult.
Well, okay.
It was a
All right.
hedonistic sex cult where people like Don Cornelius took Playboy bunnies home for 2 and 3 days and did horrible things to them. I mean, that's on A&E. That's Sandra What's-Her-Face. I couldn't believe that. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I truly thought that Hugh Hefner was a sex cult leader, I would have been like, oh no, they're just wearing the T-shirts. But nope, come to find out, that was some bad stuff going on there.
Okay. So are you relating also his wealth and the abuses of power
Yes.
by the oligarchs to the suffering in much of the world?
Yes, I think that whatever level, whether they're if they're not fueling it and paying for it, they are most certainly excusing it, right? They're looking the other way. Let's look the other way.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure I agree there either. I mean, I think in many cases, people of immense, obscene amounts of wealth and power are instigating it. I think they are because they can be agents who exist beyond the rules that much of the rest of us can live by, and are acting in completely self-serving, opportunistic, and exploitive ways, because they can get away with it, whether it's Elon Musk or whether it's somebody as sinister as Epstein, etc. I'm trying
That we can
to
agree on.
I'm trying to draw you back into what is the thing you wanted to speak about today? Buddhists don't believe in a creator God and they're doing okay.
Are they atheists, right? Are Scientologists atheists? They wind up believing in Xenu, right? Are they atheists? I guess what I'm asking, are you an atheist if you don't believe in the white Christian male God? That's probably a way to break it down.
Well, I mean, if I don't believe in Allah, I'm an atheist about Allah. Christians are atheists about Allah, Krishna, Thor, Wotan.
Right.
You know,
I'll go with that.
Xenu
I
is,
think that's okay.
if Xenu is a god, okay, then fine. They've got a theistic deity. But I don't think is Xenu a god? I'm trying to remember. It all blends together. Buddhists.
I'll have to go watch more Aaron Smith Levin.
Buddhists obviously follow the teachings of the Buddha. Some deify the Buddha. Some simply see the Buddha as philosopher and a source of inspiration by which to follow. I think, how do you distill it down to any one thing? But I mean, if I'm an atheist, I simply don't believe in God, a specific God.
Like Fireman saying that, he would have to talk to every atheist. Well, would he have to talk to 325 million Buddhist people to hear that they don't believe in Jesus and his ideas? That's kind of what I get that, like Fireman just annoyed me, to tell you the truth. That's really why I called it all. He got my dander up.
Well, between you and Nadine, your forces of nature, we should unleash you on the forces of evil in this world.
Watch out. Watch out for the women. The women are getting over. We're getting over this program. We're getting over it, man. We are getting over seeing women here in Texas. Let me explain to your listeners. Livestock has more reproductive choice than women or girls. Livestock, they bring the vet in, they do whatever they got to do. They don't got to go to court. They don't got to see 2 or 3 doctors. They don't got to figure shit out in the ER. No. Right? Women are getting tired of this. And perhaps it has something to do with the white male sky daddy that everybody's wanting us to believe in. That's why I am non-denominational.
Hang on. Well, aren't cattle, I'm not saying that Texas isn't a nightmare for the rights of women. But I mean, cattle are forcibly impregnated all the time. That is a business model. So I'm not sure I buy
they're also, if they have a problem here in Texas, we don't kill the cow to save the calf, right? That's not what we do. Cattle ranchers here, we don't kill cows to save half-born calves. We don't do that. That's what they're doing to women in Texas. They're killing the cow to save maybe a half-born calf. And that makes no sense medically, morally, or ethically.
But they are, in many cases, impregnating forcibly impregnating cattle for the purpose of reproduction so that the offspring then can be taken to the slaughterhouse to be turned into steaks. And so
And
I'm
are
not
you
sure
telling me you're
the
predicting our future? Have you read any science fiction? You know?
I'm not making a Soylent Green commentary. I'm simply wondering if the analogy actually fits. But I totally am on your page. I agree with you. There's a war on women, not in just in Texas, but in the United States right
We
now. And I
have
think
we have our Secretary of War literally posting things on his Twitter X page talking about, you know, repealing the 19th Amendment, that women just shouldn't be able to vote because, you know, Eve, because of Eve and all that damn troublemaker Eve. It all goes back to Eve. Crazy town. This is all kind of crazy town. And 325 million people on this planet are not falling for this. And it just makes me wonder why we have to.
well, I'm sure the people in the audience watching and listening have thoughts on that, Mojo. I do appreciate your enthusiasm, and I
You too,
appreciate
my
the call
friend. Have a
very much.
good one.
All right.
Later.
We'll see you later. Well, I feel like we just went in every direction at once. Like I feel stretched, like taffy. Just, I mean, no one's saying that there aren't people who, you know, let's face it, we've got an entire cult. I mean, look at the Southern Baptist Convention that thinks it's the year 11. They're still arguing in the year 2025 about whether or not women can be pastors, for Pete's sake, positions of leadership. And I think they voted no, right? You know, just go home, pop out some babies, make me a sandwich. That is the Southern Baptist position on women in the year 2025. We know that there's an entire culture of white male fundy faiths that want women to be subservient. It's almost as if the Bible was written by men. I understand that. But herded like cattle, you know, and doing the thing where you inseminate and you put them to the thing and then the offspring and you put them out to pasture and then you have them slaughtered and whatnot. I don't think the analogy, there may be a better way. There may be a better way to talk about that. But we, you know, you and I are dealing with things that we never thought we would deal with in the year 2025. And I will admit that I was monumentally naive. I did a speech called The Good Old Days back when Matt, Arn, and I did the Unholy Trinity tour, where we talked about how things were slowly stair-stepping toward, I think, a better country maybe overall. Despite all of the problems, overall, there was a net gain. I think I'd just come off Pinker's book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, and I was looking at the statistics about murder, et cetera. And so I was kind of on that train. And I'll admit, I was wrong. I never thought we would live in a time where we had essentially the Gestapo in the streets, stripping people out of their homes, their jobs, off the streets. I never thought we would have people, politicians, who are wanting to strip the bodily autonomy of women away. I didn't think I didn't think Roe would ever be reversed. The Supreme Court, I mean, even after Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, et cetera, were like, it's settled law during the confirmation process. No, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. I was monumentally naive. And I'll tell you one of the hard parts in a long laundry list of hard parts about existing in the United States, especially right now in corn-fed, white-bread, red state Oklahoma, with Governor Stitt and Ryan Walters, et cetera, and all of the red states all around me. One of the hardest parts has been to see the culture of cruelty, where Charlie Kirk said he didn't like the word empathy. Elon Musk had said the same thing, doesn't like the word empathy. All the people who were banging their Bibles at us and talking about Jesus, the Jesus who helped the sick, the Jesus who said, be humble. The Jesus who said, turn the other cheek. By the way, that's shitty advice, but you get me. right? The same Jesus who was like the least of these. If you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. The same people who've been invoking that Jesus have been gleefully cruel to their fellow human beings, agents of dehumanization. And I think one of the worst parts about watching the events of the past 10 years has been that it's been an exposing of the cruelty that was there, and we just didn't see it, at least not clearly, right? The roaches are in the light. They are empowered, emboldened. They're saying all the quiet parts out loud. Did you see Brian Kilmeade on Fox News? They're talking about the homeless. And the conversation was, well, the homeless need to be kind of rounded up, and they're a blight, right? They're a blight. So what are you going to do with them? Well, many of them need help. Okay, fine. What do you do with the people who don't want help or won't accept help? Brian Kilmeade of Fox News says maybe we should just kill them via lethal injection. This should be headline, front page, bullhorn news on every platform. But our culture of cruelty is so intense that it's gone. It is a blip. It is a t-shirt. It is one bite. It is just a single tweet. And 3 days from now, it will be almost certainly forgotten. That's how bad it is. And to watch people in my family, many of whom worship Charlie Kirk, and it's messy. People want it to be all of one thing or another. They don't understand in some ways that I can say political violence is wrong. The assassination of this man is a travesty and a tragedy, and his killer should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is not the world I want to live in. This is not how we solve our problems, right? This is not how we fix the future. I can say that, and I can also say that none of this makes Charlie Kirk the saint that the right-wingers are trying to make him today. He had hugely problematic positions. What was that line where he said that if he saw a black pilot of a plane, he would be less apt to trust them because maybe it was a DEI hire? Affirmative action, probably not all that qualified. He's black. We should be talking about that on both sides of the aisle. Remember, he told Taylor Swift, go home, submit to your husband because you're a woman. He thought the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. He said Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't believe anything that he said and was a bad person. Awful, I think, is the word he used. He was a white Christian nationalist. He held to the great replacement theory that those woke libs simply want to infiltrate foreigners into the United States to try to make white people the minority and then oppress the minority. White replacement theory. He bought into that. He sold that. He was a Christian nationalist who claimed that there was no state-church separation in the Constitution, which means he never read the Constitution, or he just doesn't care, or he was a liar, right? And that's a drop in the bucket. One after the other after the other. All of these things can be true. He can be hugely problematic in his life. And so, it's funny. Somebody sent me a sermon or part of a memorial sermon by Turning Point USA in memory of Charlie Kirk. And it was a believer and a fan of Charlie Kirk. And just out of the blue, ambushed me. Here's a text. Watch this sermon. It was very passive aggressive. And I nuked that person from orbit because, Jesus Christ, do you think I don't know who Charlie Kirk was? Do you know what I do for a living? But okay. But there's this narrative that, well, now that he is gone, and because of the horrible, horrible manner of his murder, just horrible, that somehow the things he said and did in life are off limits. This is wrong. It's the same thing that they did with Mother Teresa. There's a great book by Hitch called The Missionary Position. Terrible title for a book, but it's an expose of Mother Teresa. If I go into a conversation and I say, well, Mother Teresa was not a good person. The missionaries of charity were havens of tremendous suffering. And she was a total hypocrite. She's jet-setting around with Charles Keating. She's hobnobbing with millionaires and billionaires, and she's pretty much in bed with the genocidal Duvalier family, etc. But because she's this sweet grandmotherly woman and she's dead, apparently we're not supposed to speak ill of the dead. Wait a minute. When did death whitewash their entire lives? And people, binary thinkers, simply cannot process that we can condemn the assassination, the murder, the atrocity, political violence, and we could acknowledge the reality that this was a tremendously problematic person who spoke bigotry and was responsible for a tremendous amount of destructive ideas. And watching the people who have deified Charlie Kirk and who won't listen to any of our protestations, any of the things that we're bringing to the table. His own words, for Pete's sake. The thing, Charlie Kirk said empathy was a bad thing. He hated that word, right? They don't want to hear that. And I wonder if right now it's because there is an entire culture of people primed by Donald Trump who live in a world where they think empathy is weakness. Somehow they've just they've whited out all of the teachings of Jesus that talked about meekness. And they've decided, no, this week my God is the Old Testament God. Now we're about vengeance and crushing our enemies and punishing the wicked. And dominion. And dominions all over the Bible, from Adam's dominion in the Garden of Eden, dominion over the earth and all the animals, to the dominion wars of the Israelites throughout the Old Testament. God said, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to all the nations. He wants converts. He wants to dominate the world. People who tell me that Christian nationalism is not Christian have not read the Christian Bible. And I have become depressed at the realization over the past 10 years that the people I used to think were governed by kindness and reason, compassion, humanity, at least we have that in common. And they're smart people. And they're good people. We disagree on Christianity, but they're good people. To watch them line up behind the founding fondler, the self-professed sexual assaulter, the convicted felon, the agent of cruelty, the self-professed chosen one, and to just reveal for everybody the absolute jaw-dropping Olympic-level hypocrisy of these fundy Christians banging their Bible and telling us about how to live a moral life. You got to be shitting me. That's been one of the hardest parts. And the only thing that has gotten me through recently is to watch the resistance, to watch the people who have stood up and said no. Yeah, there were people taking selfies in front of the alligator Alcatraz sign in Florida. Ooh, look, Facebook. Concentration camp. Let's take a selfie. There were other people who said, shut this place down. It is a celebration of human suffering, and it is an atrocity that we should be above. We're seeing this by the millions in the No Kings protests, and people are going out and they're standing in the streets, even if they are being documented, even if they're being surveilled, even if someone eventually goes out, start taking names. They say, screw this. This is not the world I'm going to live in, and I'm going to go down fighting. They give me hope. The people in this audience give me hope, because I know that so many of you are people who are just as grieved as I and a bunch of other people are about the state of the world that we live in. Keeps you up at night. You think about, how do we fix it? How long will it take to fix it? Is it even fixable? And these are questions I do not know the answer to, but the fact that there are good people who are asking those questions, interested in what the answers are, and are desperate to be a part of the solution as humanists, they are the ones that keep me going. And I think those are the types of people that keep you going as well. Okay? Anyway, that's my diatribe to wrap up the show. All my best to Matt Dillahunty. He is a brother and a friend who has been under the weather. He is going to get well and be back. It's Forrest and Justin on the show tonight. After Dark starts at 7 o'clock. In the meantime, thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you next time.